Welcome to Christian Warrior Training. We're going to do a full breakdown of what happened at the church shooting yesterday in Michigan, in Wayne, Michigan. Now, I had the opportunity to talk to somebody today that is close to the investigation, that has a lot of better information than what was being reported in the press. Now, yesterday when I gave my video, I'm having to go off press reports because it's very difficult to get a hold of somebody at the church or at the police department when things are getting fresh. But I have had an opportunity to talk to somebody with firsthand knowledge about what occurred there. And we had a great conversation. And there are some very key things that we can all learn from this event to keep our churches safe. Now, if you want the full breakdown with nothing missing, go over to ChristianWarriorTraining.com. I've got a full breakdown written of everything that occurred. It's very in-depth. I think it's something that you can use to pass on to your church leadership to get things implemented, because this church, they did things right. They did things the way that we want them to prevent a shooter from gaining traction at your church. And I'm telling you right now, things that this church did saved 150 lives. There were 150 people at church that day, and there were a lot of decisions that were made. Certainly there were some mistakes, but anybody that's been involved in a dynamic, ever-evolving situation like this, where lives are at risk, you're going to make mistakes, and there were some mistakes made, but it's nothing that they weren't able to overcome. And I think it's important for us to go break this down. Now, first off, to the church, I know you guys are watching this. Good job. Don't let anybody tell you that you guys didn't do a good job. It sounds like everything kicked off wonderfully well, and you rolled with what you had, and other churches should look at what happened here. I think yesterday would have had a very high body count if things weren't done right, and a lot of people didn't react quickly. And I think today we would be reporting on deaths in the tens. It would be very unfortunate. All right. So first things first, the church originally planned to hold the service outside, but changed to move it indoors at the last minute. I'm glad they did that. Had they not done that and it was outdoors, I think we would have had a different outcome for church security teams. I don't think you realize how hard it is to secure an outside venue like that. And I think things would have been very differently. Now, the other thing that came up is the church locks its doors once the service begins. And that's a controversial move. One of the things that I've said in the past, and I've just said it very recently within the last couple of days, that if you lock your doors, you have to have somebody there to still monitor that door and to let people in that are coming in late, because inevitably people are going to be coming in late. They got to get their Starbucks before they come in. It's my favorite thing when you see people coming in late. They got their Starbucks. It's like, good for you. You had time to get Starbucks, but not time to come into church late. I'm not judging. I'm just making a comment. So look, I like locking the doors if there's somebody open the door, because you also have newcomers that are coming. And I think it's a great way to open that door to vet them. And when I say vet them, you're just having a conversation with them like, hey, welcome to the church. We have just started. Would you like me to get somebody to sit you down? And you grab an usher to come walk them down and take care of them. I think if you leave the doors unlocked, you most definitely have to have an armed security team member there watching that door. So that way you can stop evil that comes in. But even if a door is locked, and we're going to find out here in a minute, even if a door is locked, you can't leave it unattended in some way. You still have to monitor it in some way, because evil can still breach that door, which we're going to bring up here in a minute. Now, the suspect is a white male, 31. A lot of people, I initially said this is a white male, 31, and I believed it was a lone wolf attack, which it was. And a lot of people were jumping in anyways, ignoring what I had said and saying, oh, as an Islamicist, this area is 55% Islamic. And they really jumped on that bandwagon. Look, we're Christians. We have to be careful about what we say, because the Bible demands it, that we speak thoughtfully. We have to look at all available evidence. We can't jump on a bandwagon. When I heard, though, that it was a 31-year-old white guy, that doesn't fit our sleeper cell, typical jihadi type behavior that we talk about. Now, the suspect had been attending Bible studies at the church, and he claimed to be a prophet. Okay, right there's danger language. And if he's attending your Bible study and he's saying he's a prophet, you should really, I can tell you right now, if I was in a Bible study and somebody said they were the prophet, I would write an intelligence bulletin up on that person and share it with the security team right away. That is danger language. That's somebody that has mental instability that we should probably start watching out for. Now, he was known to be strange, but he wasn't considered a threat by church members. This is one of the things that I see with churches, my own church especially, is they downplay threats because of our forgiving nature. We want to show mercy and grace. We want God to show us as much mercy and grace as we show others. So we go overboard on mercy and grace. And I think it's important. I think sometimes people confuse being cautious and careful with not showing mercy and grace. I'll still show you mercy and grace. I'm still going to keep an extra eye on you, not make you feel uncomfortable, but still just keep an eye out because I need to watch out for my church, right? Now, on the day of the attack, the suspect approached the church on foot in tactical style clothing. It had originally been reported that he used his vehicle to ram the church, and where that came from, we'll find out later, is that one of the church members ran the suspect over on purpose. But he did approach on foot in that tactical style clothing. There's some debate as to whether it was camouflage, black clothing, a mix of both. But once he arrived, he opened fire from the outside, shooting through the windows of the pastor's office. He was armed with a rifle, and he also had a pistol. Now, some news reports are saying that it was an AR-15. Some of the people at the church with firsthand knowledge are saying they think it was an AK-47. Some people say that they do believe that there was what they thought was full auto fire coming from the man. And I can tell you, when I listen, in fact, let's cue to the inside of of the feed from inside the church when this assault initiated. I do believe I hear full auto fire coming in there.
Thank you.
So the suspect starts initiating that assault by shooting into the pastor's office. We don't know if he saw somebody, if it was just random gunfire, but that's where the gunfire initially starts. Now, a man arriving late saw the gunfire and used his truck to run the suspect over. Wonderful decision. Now, a lot of people have planned to shoot at the person from within their vehicle. That's bad because bullets do crazy things when they go through glass. I wouldn't do that. I have shot through car windshields and it doesn't work the way you think it does. Some people think they're going to exit and engage fire. And I got to tell you, how I meet force is, if you're going to punch me, I'm going to hit you with a baton or pepper spray you. If you're going to stab me, I'm going to shoot you. Nothing says I have to meet force with force, right? If you're shooting at me and I'm in my Dodge Ram pickup with a Cummins diesel and you're shooting at me and I'm in my vehicle, I'm running you over. Instead of hitting you with a 124 grain projectile, I'm actually going to drill you with a multi-thousand pound pickup truck and just mow you down. And then I'll get out and shoot you. No, just, you know what I mean. This knocked the shooter to the ground, but it didn't completely stop the threat. So a woman inside the church at that particular moment, she saw that the man was down and she thought it was a traffic accident. She thought that it was this accident. So she opened the door to go outside and help this man that she thought had been hit by a car, not realizing that was part of the gunfire. Well, that left the doorway open for the shooter to start shooting through the doorway. And you've heard me mention it a number of times that doorway is a fatal funnel. It's very easy to look into that. It just naturally draws fire from bad people. And so the shooter fired through that open doorway, hitting a safety team member in the leg. Now, armed safety team members returned fire and then they stopped that threat. They killed him. One side note here, they have a safety ministry. They're like my church. We have a safety ministry, comprises of medical and security. A lot of people don't like to mention the security team portion, so we just say safety ministry. That's okay. Doesn't matter what you call them. There were people there that were armed with training to take care of business. I am hoping that when the shooters get cleared by the county DA's office and it doesn't look like they're going to get sued by the family, to have them on and talk about the shooting if they're up for it. So that's something I'll work on in the future here. Now, the shooter attempted to reload after being hit, which gave the defenders kind of that final opening to go ahead and finish him off. Now, during this time, there was a mass evacuation that you see in the video where people are running out. And about 20 of those people fled through the woods and took shelter in a nearby house. Sounds like it might be the pastor's house, but 20 people fled through the woods to go to a house. Now, that might be, a lot of people might have known that as a friendly house, and that was their safe house. And you hear me talk to people going on missions that you need to have a safe house somewhere to basically, if a shooting were like this to happen, that you could flee and get to that house and find sanctuary. But the evacuation of the church seemed haphazard. I don't know much about that. The person with information on that evacuation, but the incident, I forgot to ask about the evacuation itself. So I apologize, bad interviewer part on me. But my advice to you is that when you leave here and you take some of these lessons learned, that you go to your church and you talk to your admin about needing to do an evacuation practice to see what that actually looks like. Now, out of this whole incident, only one person was injured. No congregants were killed thanks to the rapid armed response by the church security team. Now, early media falsely reported that the truck hit the church. This is not true, but I do want to emphasize to all of you, I've been talking about it for quite some time now, for at least a year now. You've got to put bollards up and traffic safety devices up at your church, because there is a huge increase in vehicle ramming attacks around the world. There has been vehicle ramming attacks at churches injuring children going to Sunday school and preschool at churches, and people being hit just in accidents. And so we have a duty to act. I'm letting you know we have got to do something. Now, some of the other things that we need to remember out of all this is that church safety teams have to train for rifle threats and door control during incidents. I know it's going to come up. Everybody's going to say, Keith, should I have a rifle at my church? I think you should have a rifle at your church if your church allows it. You have training. This is the biggest thing that's missing. A lot of you are carrying armed on an armed church security team, and you have no formal training. That is wrong. I'm telling you that's wrong. You must fix yourself. Don't expect your church to fix it. Fix it yourself on your own. Go find a training course and put yourself through it, okay? But carrying an AR-15 with no church permission and no training is just outright wrong. Now, if you have permission, you have training, and you have policies in place about how that rifle is going to be stored, implemented, who's going to use it, I think it's a great idea. But look, this was stopped. This is a standard active shooter incident where it's stopped immediately by people with pistols, because it's what you have on you. You finish it right there, and the rifle doesn't show up on time. Where a rifle is really going to come in is those sustained attacks where the police aren't coming and you can't seem to stop the momentum. That's when it's going to come. I don't think it hurts. I don't think it should be your priority. I think there's a lot of other priorities, like locking those doors and having armed people at those doors to let in latecomers, putting up bollards around your church, having a 4K video system, a burglar alarm, and a fire alarm. Dude, get that done first. There's so many things that need to get done before that. As an example, all this stuff that I've talked to you over the last couple of days, you're more likely to have your pastor molest a child than for you to have an active shooter event at your church. I want you to let that sink in. We have not done enough as a church to stop child molestation within churches. You need to look within. And if you haven't started fixing that problem in your own church, then do that first, then figure out the rifle solution first, because we need to protect our children. The other thing is, don't assume that the church is going to cover your legal defense. Carry your own use of force insurance. Even in a situation like this looks very clear cut, right? A guy is engaging the church with a rifle. Somebody has to run him over. Even after being run over, he's still engaging with a rifle. You shoot him with a pistol, you're still going to get sued by the family. And look, Wayne County, I think you're in a liberal area. Or it's Wayne, Michigan, I think you're in a liberal area. Your prosecutor still might come after you saying it was excessive at some point. Like, the first and second bullets were okay, but the third was not. I see that happen all the time. And so you're going to need self-defense insurance. Now, I recommend Right to Bear. I've looked at all 11 self-defense insurance companies to see who's the best. I'm going to USCCA on Wednesday. I'm going to meet with the president on Wednesday. I'm going to meet the other C-suite folks on Thursday to talk about what they're doing for churches, what you guys want for self-defense insurance. I don't think even after this meeting I would still be able to recommend them. I think they have some work to do. But hey, maybe next year that might change. But I'm here to tell you, every third quarter, I will look at all the self-defense insurance plans because they're changing. I'm talking to and meeting with almost all of the self-defense insurance companies and talking about what churches need and seeing if they can meet those needs. A lot of the ones that you guys like, they're not good for churches. No matter what you come up and you say in the comments, well, I looked at this and they're good. Wrong. They're good if you're just some dude that needs self-defense insurance, but not if you're a church member. A lot of them will not treat you right if you're working in a church security capacity. Just my 2 cents. I know that I'm going to hear from some church security company now. They're going to tell me I'm wrong about their company, but just so you know. I don't want you to assume that your church is going to cover your legal defense, so have your own self-defense insurance. These guys did a great job, but there's going to be a lawsuit that's going to come out of this, no doubt. Somebody's going to say you should have recognized that he was crazy, and because you didn't recognize it, you shot him, and this is your fault. This is America. Everybody gets sued. You want to make sure that, like the church is going to represent the church. They may say they're going to represent you too, but they're ultimately there. The lawyers are ultimately there to protect the church and not you. Just my 2 cents. I want you to remember some key lessons out of all of this that we're talking about. Number one, an armed, trained team is essential. I do recommend armed teams. They have to be trained. If you're not training your people, you're doing a bad job. Okay? You have to train your people. Armed, trained, that's essential for all churches. Okay. There are several denominations that are national that are refusing to allow even people that have a right to carry in their churches. Man, that's your choice. But even Luke 22:36 says it's okay. I'm not sure why you would think it's not. It sounds like that church is making up its own rules. Just my 2 cents. Access control is not enough. This building had 13 entry points. 13. My church has a ton of entry points just like this. Even with locked doors, a single moment of confusion, like someone opening a door to help somebody, changes the dynamics. So you have a closed door that's on the opposite side of the building, but now they hear gunfire and there's somebody outside that they think is trying to come in to get away from the gunfire, so they open it. Oh, turns out that it's an armed suspect trying to get into the church to kill people. You just let them in. That's not going to be enough. So door control has to be paired up with training and contingency protocols to maintain that containment. Jason, I'm looking at you, brother. We got to do something. Hopefully you're still watching. All right. Threats don't always start inside. 75% of all violent incidents start outside of the church, just like this one. 75%. I keep telling you guys, all problems start in the parking lot, and I think you guys are starting to catch on. We see that they caught on here in this church. They did a great job. I'm still waiting to find out if this church follows me or not, but I know some people do from the church because they reached out when I asked for people to give me a call. But threats don't always start inside. 75% going to start outside just like this. This is why it's so important to have people stationed on the outside. You have to train for rifle threats. This wasn't a handgun engagement. Attacker brought a rifle, most likely an AK pattern weapon. It did sound full auto to me. And you've got to prepare for that, how we prepare for that. At my church, I got an AK-47 with a blank adapter and very loud blanks. It sounds like an AK-47 going off. You guys can probably hear the ice cream truck driving by my house right now. Look, you have to train for these rifle encounters. When I first started lighting that AK off inside my church, people lost it. It was overwhelming. But now we've taught people to fight through it and to fight through the problem. They're doing great. You got to have evacuation and rally points. They matter, right? You got to practice evacuation. Oh, can't go out that door, so we're going to go out this door. Oh, we can't go outside. Let's lock people down into the center. We can't lock people down in the center, so we're going to go out to the balcony. You got to have multiple ways of doing this, and you got to tell your people how those evacuations are going to happen. You don't want some lone wolf, associate pastor losing their head and going, we got to go outside, and then bring them right into the line of fire. We don't want that. The last up, insurance isn't optional. You've got to have insurance. You personally, I recommend Right to Bear. If you use my link that I provided in the article, or you use the link in the description below, $180. It's like a 20% discount or something, plus free 50-state coverage, civil liability insurance. Boy, that's loud. Anybody want an ice cream? And then you get civil liability insurance and a bunch of other stuff. So just something to think about. It's a good thing my granddaughter's not here. I'd have to stop and run outside to get an ice cream right now. Those are my final thoughts. Oh, actually, they're not my final thoughts. We've got to talk about Bible study for defenders. Look, I always like talking about what the Bible says about your job and just a biblical justification about what it is that you're doing. Ezekiel 33:6, the watchman on the wall. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin. But I will hold the watchmen accountable for their blood. Now look, God's charge to the watchman isn't metaphorical. It's a command. When you see danger coming, whether it's a lone gunman or a coordinated threat, you are accountable to act. Church safety team members operate under this biblical model. It's not about fear, it's about faith and action. Look, I've been warning so many pastors about the need to put up bollards in front of their churches to protect the children and from accidents and people from ramming attacks, and you've chosen not to do anything about it. I want you to remember Ezekiel. Are you remaining biblical? Why are you not doing that? Are you doing it because you just don't feel like it? Money, I get. You don't have the money to get it done. I get it. But anything beyond that, I mean, it bothers me. Luke 22:36. Jesus commands preparedness. But now, if you have a purse, take it, and also a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. Now look, Jesus didn't tell his disciples to act recklessly. That's not what we're asking you to do. But he did tell them to prepare. In modern terms, he affirmed the legitimacy of self-defense when paired with discernment. Paired with discernment. For the Christian defender, the sword is not just permitted, it's expected. And I've got some groovy music in the background. It doesn't match what I'm talking about though, so it's a little off. I'm sorry. I would put better background music on. Maybe I'll talk to the ice cream man next time. Jokes on the ice cream man. It's a majority of retirees over here. All right, Nehemiah 4:17 and 18, building and defending together. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other, and each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. Now look, church is not a fortress. Do not turn your church into a bunker. I cannot say that enough. But it's not to be defenseless. Nehemiah's men built with one hand and guarded with the other. That same spirit applies today. Worship with one heart, but keep your eyes open and your tools ready. Now look, after looking at all this, I have to ask, are we watching over the flock with both spiritual vigilance and practical readiness? Are we training like Nehemiah's men, ready to build and defend at the same time? Have we counted the cost, not just tactically, but legally and spiritually? And lastly, do we believe that God's provision may include the tools and training needed to act? Well, this is what I get for enjoying a beautiful day in Idaho where it's 70 degrees. The rest of the country's in the hundreds. I come out here to shoot my video and got to deal with the ice cream truck. All right, he's gone now. Look, when we leave here, I'd like you to pray unceasingly for that church, Crosspoint Church in Wayne, Michigan. I want you to pray for the church safety team member that was shot. And I want you to pray for the man's family that was killed and had perpetrated this attack. I know that they were struggling as well. I'd like you to pray for everybody that witnessed this event in the entire Crosspoint Church community. We know that they are all suffering right now and are going to deal with stuff for the rest of their lives. They can use our support and our love. Last thing I want you to do is remember your ABCs. Always be caring,